Fame in Hollywood doesn't usually end with a bang. Most of the time, it ends with silence. One night, one sentence, one bad decision caught on tape. And the machine quietly shuts its doors. No press release, no farewell tour, just unanswered calls and vanished opportunities. These weren't nobodies. They were icons, household names, people the industry once trusted, protected, and profited from. But Hollywood has one unspoken rule. When you become inconvenient, it doesn't fight you. It waits you out. Tonight, we're telling the stories of stars who didn't just fall, they were quietly erased. Number 1, Michael Richards. The moment laughter turned into silence. Michael Richards had already won Hollywood. As Kramer on Seinfeld, he wasn't just popular, he was immortal. The hair, the physical chaos, the unpredictable entrances through Jerry's door. Reruns played endlessly, checks arrived effortlessly, and his place in television history was permanently laminated. Richards didn't need another hit show. He didn't need another audition. All he had to do was nothing, and Hollywood would have kept him comfortable forever. Then came one night in 2006, one comedy club, one heckler, one moment where control slipped. What followed wasn't a bad joke or an awkward bomb. It was an onstage meltdown. Raw, angry, and filled with language that felt ripped straight out of a career-ending manual. There was no slow buildup, no chance to recover. Someone hit record. The internet hit play. And suddenly, Michael Richards wasn't a beloved sitcom legend anymore. He was a viral warning label. Apologies came fast. Public, emotional, repeated. Even Jerry Seinfeld stood beside him, offering support, loyalty, and grace. But Hollywood had already done the math. Not out loud, not angrily, quietly. Comedy clubs stopped calling. Studios didn't issue statements. Casting directors didn't argue ethics. They simply moved on. No dramatic cancellation. No angry mob chasing him down the street. Just silence. And in Hollywood, silence is the loudest verdict there is. Richards didn't slowly fade out. He vanished. Decades of goodwill were erased by minutes of footage. Not because Hollywood is cruel, but because it's efficient, risk-free, image-driven. When someone becomes unpredictable, the system doesn't punish them. It removes them from the equation. Michael Richards learned the harshest lesson of fame. You're not remembered for your entire career. You're remembered for the moment people replay the most. He didn't lose his talent. He lost the room. And once Hollywood stops laughing with you, it rarely invites you back to explain. Number 2, Scott Baio. The slow fade. Hollywood never announces. For a long time, Scott Baio was American television. Teen idol. Perfect smile. Clean-cut charm packaged for primetime. From Happy Days to Charles in Charge, Baio wasn't just cast, he was trusted. Hollywood didn't merely employ him, it invited him into America's living rooms week after week. He represented something safe, familiar, dependable. The kind of image studios love because it doesn't require explanations. And for years it worked. But Hollywood has a strange expiration clock. One that doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just ticks, quietly. As Baio got older, the role slowed. That part wasn't unusual. What changed was everything around the work. Off-screen controversies, lawsuits, and increasingly polarizing public statements began pulling focus away from his performances. His name still appeared in headlines, just not on casting lists. Networks grew cautious. Producers hesitated, not because of one single scandal, but because the picture was getting complicated, and Hollywood hates complicated. There was no defining moment where the doors slammed shut, no viral clip, no courtroom spectacle, just fewer calls, then fewer meetings, then none at all. Attempts at comebacks leaned heavily on nostalgia, but nostalgia doesn't write new checks. It just reminds people of who you used to be. Baio didn't get canceled. He didn't get erased overnight. He walked into the slow fade, the kind where you're technically still famous, but only in past tense. The industry didn't argue with him. It didn't publicly punish him. It simply scrolled past, searching for the next version of safe. And in Hollywood, being ignored is far more final than being criticized. Scott Baio's career didn't end in flames. It ended in silence, stretched out over years, which might be the most brutal ending of all. Because when Hollywood moves on without you, there's no villain to blame, no moment to point to. Just the uncomfortable truth that the system doesn't owe longevity, only relevance. And once relevance fades, Hollywood doesn't look back to see who's still standing. Number 3, Harvey Weinstein, the kingmaker who detonated his own throne. For decades, Harvey Weinstein wasn't just a producer, he was the gate. He didn't simply greenlight movies. He greenlit careers. Oscars bent in his direction. Studios flinched when his phone rang. If Weinstein liked you, doors flew open. If he didn't, your career could stall without anyone ever explaining why. Power didn't creep up on him slowly. It wrapped around him completely until he started moving through Hollywood like consequences didn't apply. And for a long time, they didn't. The whispers had always been there. Quiet, strategic, easy to ignore when awards season depended on staying silent. Hollywood isn't built to confront power. It's built to orbit it. So the system did what it does best. It looked away, protected itself, and kept rolling out red carpets until it couldn't anymore. When the accusations finally exploded into public view, they didn't arrive as a rumor. They arrived as a flood. Investigations, headlines, women stepping forward one after another, telling stories that Hollywood had spent years pretending not to hear. The tuxedos, trophies, and standing ovations couldn't drown it out this time. What happened next was almost surgical. Allies vanished overnight. Studios sprinted in the opposite direction. The same industry that once shielded Weinstein broke the world record for fastest retreat. Credits were erased, statues removed, projects disowned like embarrassing relatives no one wanted to explain at Thanksgiving. In 2020, Weinstein was convicted in New York. Later, Los Angeles followed. Decades of control were replaced by decades behind bars. The man who once decided award seasons couldn't decide his own future. His name became radioactive, not controversial, not debated, just untouchable. Weinstein didn't fall from power. He detonated it. And in the blast radius, something uncomfortable was exposed. Hollywood didn't fail to stop him. The system worked exactly as designed, until the cost of silence became higher than the cost of truth. When the curtain finally dropped, it wasn't just on one man. It was on the illusion that power in Hollywood answers to morality before optics. And once optics flipped, the machine didn't hesitate. It never does. Number 4, R. Kelly. When the music stopped forever, for years, R. Kelly wasn't just part of R&B, he was R&B. Hit after hit, platinum records, sold out arenas, Grammys on the shelf. His voice became the soundtrack to weddings, slow dances, late night radio, and moments people didn't question too closely. In the industry, his influence ran deep. He wasn't chasing relevance. Relevance followed him. And for a long time, fame acted like insulation. The rumors were always there, drifting in the background like a baseline everyone pretended not to hear. Whispers passed around quietly. Stories brushed aside. The machine kept moving because the machine was profitable. As long as the music kept selling, discomfort stayed conveniently off stage, until it didn't. Eventually, whispers hardened into investigations. Investigations turned into courtrooms, and courtrooms replaced concerts. Cameras stopped filming encores and started filming testimony. Prosecutors laid out a disturbing, methodical pattern that dismantled the public image piece by piece, not with shock, but with detail. The transformation was brutal. The man who once controlled arenas now stood before a judge, not an audience, not applause. In 2021 and 2022, convictions landed hard. Decades in prison replaced decades on stage. Record labels fled. Radio stations hit skip. Streaming platforms quietly adjusted playlists like nothing had ever happened. The songs didn't vanish. The legacy did. R. Kelly didn't lose his career because the industry suddenly grew a conscience. He lost it because the cost of protecting him finally outweighed the profit of ignoring him. When the spotlight turned from performance to accountability, Hollywood didn't hesitate. The mute button was pressed, permanently. And that's the final illusion of fame. Success can delay consequences, but it can't cancel them. When the music stops, the silence is absolute. Number 5, O.J. Simpson. America's smile until the country stopped smiling. Before the trial, before the chase, before the verdict that split America in half, O.J. Simpson was untouchable. NFL legend, movie star, commercial pitchman with a grin so warm it felt engineered to sell trust itself. He wasn't just famous, he was welcomed. America didn't simply watch O.J. It invited him into living rooms, cheered him on, and believed him. He represented success without threat, fame without friction. Then came 1994. One slow-speed white Bronco turned Los Angeles traffic into must-see television. What followed wasn't just a criminal case, it was a national obsession. Courtroom drama played out like a serialized show before reality TV even knew what it was. Celebrity lawyers, endless media coverage, every dinner table became a debate stage. When the verdict came, the country fractured. Cheers on one side, shock on the other. Trust in justice, media, and institutions took a hit it never fully recovered from. And while Simpson walked free criminally, Hollywood never looked at him the same way again. The smile still existed. The confidence didn't land. Then came the civil trial, a ruling against him, a fortune drained. The public image collapsed further, piece by piece. Years later, another crime, unrelated but undeniable, sent him to prison for real, locking the final chapter into place. O.J. didn't just lose a career, he lost the benefit of the doubt forever. Hollywood didn't need to cancel him. The audience already had. His story became bigger than any role he could ever play again. Not a comeback arc, not redemption, just a permanent question mark attached to his name. He proved something uncomfortable. Fame can survive scandal, but it can't survive broken trust. Once that's gone, no verdict can bring it back. Answer 6. Sean Young. When talent isn't the problem, control is. Sean Young had everything Hollywood claims it wants. Talent, beauty, intelligence. A presence that didn't beg for attention. It challenged you to look away. When Blade Runner arrived in the early 1980s, she wasn't just memorable, she was magnetic. Cold, sharp, mysterious. Hollywood didn't see a supporting actress. It saw a future leading lady with edge, the kind studios build careers around. And then, it stalled. Not because of box office failure, not because audiences rejected her, but because the stories around her began to change tone. On-set conflicts, awkward encounters, a growing reputation for being difficult in an industry addicted to control. The label didn't arrive all at once. It crept in quietly, whispered from meeting rooms to casting offices. The final shift came when Young began openly campaigning for roles she didn't get, including showing up uninvited to auditions. In most industries, that's ambition. In Hollywood, it's panic. And panic is contagious. There was no headline-grabbing scandal, no explosive meltdown caught on tape. Just whispers. And whispers are lethal here. Big studio roles quietly turned into smaller parts, then into none at all. Calls stopped coming. Meetings stopped being scheduled. Hollywood didn't debate her talent. It didn't question her ability. It labeled her too complicated and moved on. Years later, retrospectives softened. Critics and fans began asking uncomfortable questions. Was she misunderstood, treated unfairly, penalized for refusing to play the expected game? Maybe all three. But Hollywood doesn't rewind for context. It doesn't reopen doors once it decides someone is inconvenient. Sean Young didn't lose her career in flames. She was quietly ushered out. And in a town where perception matters more than truth, being seen as uncontrollable is often more dangerous than being wrong. Number 7. Tom Sizemore explosive talent. Zero margin for error. In the 1990s, Tom Sizemore didn't walk into movies. He detonated in them. Heat, Saving Private Ryan, Natural-Born Killers. When Sizemore appeared on screen, the film immediately felt heavier, dirtier, more dangerous. Directors trusted him with intensity because he didn't fake it. Audiences believed him because he lived on the edge. And that edge made his performances unforgettable. Unfortunately, it followed him home. Off-screen chaos kept pace with the roles. Addiction struggles, arrests, court dates, rehab stints, a cycle that never quite reset. Studios didn't question his talent. They questioned their insurance policies. Each incident shaved away trust until his name stopped meaning authentic intensity and started meaning liability. Hollywood teased comebacks, a role here, a reality show there, promises of recovery. Each time, hope flickered and then burned out again. The talent never disappeared. The discipline did. And in an industry built on schedules, budgets, and risk management, discipline matters more than raw ability. Sizemore wasn't canceled. He wasn't condemned. He was avoided, quietly removed from the equation. The actor who once stole scenes from legends became someone studios couldn't afford to gamble on. Not because he couldn't deliver, but because they couldn't trust he would show up intact. Tom Sizemore didn't run out of skill. He ran out of second chances. And Hollywood is brutally honest about one thing. You can light up the screen as many times as you want. But if you keep burning bridges, eventually there's nowhere left to stand. Number 8, Corey Feldman, famous before he ever had a choice. Corey Feldman didn't ease into Hollywood. He was launched into it. By the 1980s, he was everywhere. The Goonies, Stand By Me, The Lost Boys. Hit after hit, spotlight after spotlight. While other kids were riding bikes, Feldman was riding premieres. Fame arrived early, loud, and with absolutely no instruction manual. For a moment, it looked like he'd make the impossible leap from child star to adult powerhouse. Then adulthood showed up, and Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. As the years passed, Feldman's acting career drifted while his personal life stayed front and center. Public struggles, controversial interviews, and attempts to reclaim relevance began to overshadow the work itself. Music projects confused fans who wanted nostalgia, not reinvention. Comebacks were announced with confidence and landed in awkward silence. Hollywood didn't attack him. It didn't blacklist him. It did something far worse. It stopped taking him seriously. Feldman kept talking. The industry kept listening less and less. The former child icon slowly transformed into a cautionary tale. Not of one catastrophic mistake, but of a system that never allowed a kid to grow up off camera. Fame locked in his childhood image, then punished him for not fitting it anymore. Corey Feldman didn't lose his career overnight. It eroded in public. And once Hollywood decides you're a symbol instead of a collaborator, there's no easy way back. Because the machine loves child stars, but it rarely teaches them how to survive adulthood. Number 9, Amanda Bynes, America's funniest kid, until the joke turned serious. For a moment, Amanda Bynes didn't just star on Nickelodeon, she ran it. Fearless, elastic-faced, effortlessly funny. She slipped into characters like muscle memory, turning chaos into punchlines without ever breaking a sweat. The Amanda Show made her a phenomenon. She's the man, and Hairspray proved she could carry comedy beyond kids' TV. Hollywood wasn't watching a child star fade in and out. It was betting on a future comedy queen with real timing. Then adulthood arrived, uninvited. As Amanda got older, the laughs slowly gave way to concern. Arrests, erratic behavior, alarming social media posts, public breakdowns that played out in real time. The question quietly shifted from, what's her next movie, what, to is she okay? Studios didn't cancel her. They panicked, discreetly. Projects vanished, meetings stopped, phones went silent. There was no single scandal to point to, no courtroom circus, no headline that officially ended it all. Just a slow, painful unraveling under a microscope while the world watched, unsure whether it was witnessing a crisis or entertainment. By the mid-2010s, Bynes stepped away from acting entirely, later speaking openly about mental health struggles and substance abuse. Amanda Bynes didn't lose her talent. That never disappeared. She lost the safety net child stars are promised and rarely given. Fame arrived early. Support arrived late. And Hollywood, which once fed off her energy, kept a very careful distance when that energy became unpredictable. Her story isn't about failure. It's about a system that knew how to profit from a kid, but never learned how to protect the adult. Number 10, Terrence Howard, one contract, one ego, one door that never reopened. For a brief moment in the mid-2000s, Terrence Howard was unavoidable. Hustle and flow earned him an Oscar nomination and instant credibility. He had intensity, presence, and a voice that cut through the screen. When Iron Man launched in 2008, Howard stood right beside Robert Downey Jr., perfectly positioned at the start of what would become the most powerful franchise in modern Hollywood. Superheroes were about to take over the world, and he had a front row seat. Then came the off-screen plot twist, contract disputes, bruised egos, conversations that clearly didn't end with handshakes. Marvel didn't hesitate. The role was recast with Don Cheadle, and the machine kept moving. Billion-dollar sequels rolled out while Howard watched from the outside, replaced before the posters were even cold. Howard didn't take it quietly. Public criticism followed. Interviews became unpredictable. Claims grew larger. Hollywood listened and took notes. The pattern repeated itself. While Empire briefly reignited his star power, that chapter also ended amid tension and disputes. Studios began to see risk where they once saw intensity. Terrence Howard didn't disappear overnight. He talked himself out of the room. In an industry built on collaboration, being difficult is more career-ending than being untalented. He had the timing. He had the spotlight. He had the skill. What he lost was trust. And once that's gone, Hollywood rarely offers a second negotiation. Number 11, Chevy Chase. When the laughs stopped landing, for decades, Chevy Chase was American comedy, a founding face of Saturday Night Live, box office royalty with National Lampoon's Vacation. That smirk told audiences everything was under control. Hollywood kept calling because people kept laughing. Simple math. Behind the scenes, the punchlines were different. Clashes with co-stars, tense writer rooms, stories that piled up quietly. Then came Community. A comeback that should have been easy money. Instead, public feuds, awkward interviews, and a messy exit turned a fan-favorite gig into an HR case study streamed in real time. Chase apologized, reflected, acknowledged growth. Hollywood nodded politely and closed the door anyway. No blacklist, no announcement, just fewer invites. Then none. The reruns kept playing. The phone didn't. Chevy Chase didn't lose his timing. He lost the room. And in comedy, once people stop laughing with you, you're suddenly the joke nobody wants to explain. Number 12, Katherine Heigl. Hollywood's golden girl who said the quiet part out loud. For a while, Katherine Heigl could do no wrong. Grey's Anatomy made her America's favorite TV doctor, and a string of romantic comedies turned her into a reliable box office draw. She had the look, the timing, the audience goodwill, and most importantly, the industry's trust. Hollywood wasn't just casting Katherine Heigl, it was investing in her. Then she broke one of Hollywood's most unforgiving rules. In 2008, Heigl withdrew her name from Emmy consideration, publicly criticizing the writing on Grey's Anatomy. Later, she spoke openly about weak scripts and difficult on-set experiences in other projects. In most workplaces, that's called honesty. In Hollywood, it's called being difficult. The narrative flipped almost overnight. Professional became ungrateful. Outspoken became hard to work with. And once that label sticks, it spreads faster than any box office success. Offers slowed. Roles shrank. Studios quietly chose actors who came with fewer questions and easier conversations. There was no public firing, no dramatic fallout, just a gradual cooling, the industry politely stepping back. Heigl eventually stepped away to focus on family, later admitting she regretted how she spoke, but not what she said. By then, the damage was already done. Katherine Heigl didn't lose Hollywood because she failed, flopped, or imploded. She lost it because she said the truth at the wrong moment. In an industry built on silence and smiles, honesty without timing isn't courage, it's career risk. Number 13, Mischa Barton crowned too young, dropped too fast. Mischa Barton didn't climb to fame, she was launched into it. When the OC exploded in the early 2000s, Barton became instant teen royalty. Fashion spreads, Paparazzi swarms, red carpets before she could legally order a drink. Hollywood crowned her early, loudly, confidently, and without a seatbelt. Stardom felt permanent. The future looked locked. It wasn't. Behind the glossy covers, pressure cracked the frame. Sudden fame, relentless scrutiny, the brutal pace of primetime television. Legal troubles and public stress began replacing buzz. When Barton exited the OC at the height of its popularity, Hollywood didn't pause to ask why. It didn't slow down. It kept rolling, and it rolled right past her. Roles shrank. Momentum cooled. Casting directors shifted to the next fresh face. Younger, quieter, easier to manage. Barton tried to reset through indie films, TV returns, even reality detours. Nothing stuck long enough to rewrite the narrative. She didn't implode in a single scandal. She didn't torch her reputation overnight. She faded in real time, under a microscope, while growing up in front of an audience that never learned patience. Hollywood loves youth, but it rarely teaches it how to survive success. Mischa Barton didn't lose her talent. She lost her moment, and Hollywood never waits for anyone to catch up. Number 14, Paul Reubens. When the character becomes bigger than the man, Paul Reubens didn't just create a character. He became one. Pee Wee Herman wasn't a role. It was a cultural takeover. Strange, childlike, oddly wholesome, and instantly recognizable. Movies, TV shows, toys, catchphrases. Pee Wee lived everywhere, and Reubens became inseparable from the gray suit and red bow tie. Hollywood didn't just market the character. It wrapped an entire brand around him. Then came 1991. One personal incident, one arrest. No victims. No crimes against others. None of that mattered. The headlines flattened all nuance into shock value, and America decided it was done pretending it could separate fiction from reality. Pee Wee Herman evaporated overnight. Reruns were pulled, projects frozen, invitations vanished. Hollywood didn't argue. It flinched. Reubens chose silence over spectacle. Instead of fighting the narrative, he disappeared, slowly rebuilding through voice work, small roles, and nostalgia-fueled appearances. The talent never left. The creativity never faded. But the cultural moment had moved on. Years later, when Pee Wee returned with Pee Wee's Big Holiday, it felt warm and familiar and strangely distant. The audience smiled. Hollywood didn't reopen the gates. Paul Reubens didn't lose his imagination. He lost forgiveness in an era that confused discomfort with danger. And once a character defines you completely, Hollywood doesn't know how to let you exist without it. Number 15, Mickey Rourke. The comeback Hollywood didn't wait for. In the 1980s, Mickey Rourke didn't chase stardom. It waited for him. Dangerous good looks, raw, unpredictable talent. Performances that felt like they might punch through the screen. 9.5 weeks, Angel Heart. Rourke became the bad boy fantasy Hollywood couldn't manufacture twice. Directors wanted him. Audiences believed him. The future looked wide open, so he walked away. At the height of his career, Rourke quit acting to become a professional boxer. Not for a role, but for real. The decision cost him momentum, years of opportunity, and eventually a face the industry no longer recognized. When he tried to return, the doors weren't just closed. They'd been replaced. Smaller roles followed. Patience wore thin. A reputation for being difficult didn't help. Then came 2000, The Wrestler, a miracle. Critics lost their minds. Awards buzz exploded. Redemption felt real, earned, emotional. For a moment, it looked like Hollywood was ready to welcome him back. Then it slipped away again. Public feuds, on-set tension, missed opportunities. The second chance burned faster than the first. The talent never disappeared. The trust did. Hollywood doesn't mind damaged stars. It hates wasted comebacks. Mickey Rourke didn't lose his career once. He lost it twice. And the second time hurt more, because everyone knew what he was capable of, including him. Number 16, Wesley Snipes. Hollywood never hits pause. Before superheroes dominated the box office, Wesley Snipes was the blueprint. As Blade, he didn't just fight vampires. He carved out a future Hollywood hadn't fully imagined yet. Swagger, physical dominance, box office pull. At a time when comic book movies were still considered risky, studios trusted him to carry an entire franchise. Snipes wasn't writing a trend. He was the trend. Then reality hit harder than any stunt. At the height of his power, Snipes' biggest battles weren't on screen. Legal troubles over unpaid taxes escalated into courtrooms, headlines, and eventually prison time. In 2010, the man who once anchored a franchise was officially sidelined. Hollywood didn't protest. It didn't wait. It did what it always does. It moved on. While Snipes served time, franchises multiplied. Superheroes exploded. An entire genre he helped legitimize evolved without him. When he returned, the industry was different. Smaller roles, supporting parts, brief flashes of the charisma audiences remembered. The talent was still there. The timing wasn't. Wesley Snipes didn't lose relevance because he aged out or lost his edge. He lost it because Hollywood never presses pause. Not for prison, not for legends, not even for the man who proved superheroes could work. Number 17, Brendan Fraser. The nicest guy Hollywood forgot to protect. At his peak, Brendan Fraser was everywhere. And somehow still everyone's favorite. Action hero, romantic lead, comedy star. The Mummy turned him into a global box office guarantee, while audiences trusted him completely. He had charm, physicality, and a sincerity Hollywood loves to sell, right up until it stops shielding it. Then he vanished. No scandal, no meltdown, no headline screaming career over. Just silence. Behind the scenes, years of brutal stunt work destroyed his body, leading to multiple surgeries. At the same time, a painful divorce, personal struggles, and quiet industry politics pushed him further out of frame. The roles slowed, then stopped. Hollywood didn't fire Brendan Fraser. It simply forgot to check if he was okay. For years, the industry kept running while he healed in private, physically and emotionally. When Fraser later spoke about feeling sidelined and mistreated by the very system he helped fuel, the picture came into focus. The machine had moved on without looking back. By the time he was ready to return, Hollywood had already built new franchises without him. Then came The Whale, a performance so raw it forced the industry to remember what it lost. Standing ovations, awards buzz, vindication wrapped in vulnerability. Fraser didn't lose Hollywood because he failed. He lost it because the machine never slows down for kindness, injuries, or quiet suffering. Number 18, Kevin Sorbo. From playing a god to fighting the industry. For a while, Kevin Sorbo was a television god, literally. As Hercules in the 1990s, he dominated syndicated TV with massive ratings and a global fan base. Reruns played like scripture. He had the look, the voice, the physical presence. Hollywood had handed him a throne in the fantasy kingdom, and for years it seemed permanent. Then the spotlight shifted off screen. As Sorbo's acting credits slowed, his public persona grew louder. Social media rants, political commentary, public feuds that replaced casting announcements. Scripts were replaced by opinions. Instead of roles, headlines followed. Hollywood didn't argue with him. It didn't try to cancel him. It simply stopped calling. Big studios quietly disappeared. Mainstream projects dried up. Sorbo kept working, but mostly in niche productions far from the spotlight he once commanded. The industry didn't punish him. It disengaged. The man who once battled mythical beasts now spent his energy battling Hollywood itself. Kevin Sorbo didn't lose his career in one scandal or bad performance. He talked himself out of relevance over time. And Hollywood is brutally consistent about one thing. It doesn't reward people who turn the spotlight into a battleground. None of these stars failed the same way. Some exploded, some faded, some were erased quietly. But they all learned the same lesson. Hollywood doesn't need to cancel you. It just needs to stop needing you. When the calls end, when the rooms go quiet, when the system moves on without you, that's the real ending. Not a scandal, not a verdict, just silence. And silence is the one thing fame can't survive.